Have you ever had a dream so big it felt completely impossible? A dream that others laughed at or said was just a silly idea fit only for children or fools. Many of us have experienced this feeling. We often start a big project with great excitement and high energy, but then the reality of hard work, the unexpected problems, and the painful failures begin to wear us down. This difficulty often makes us want to stop and return to what is easy and safe. But some unique people don't stop. They keep going, fighting through the toughest times, even when every sign tells them to quit. Why? What special, invisible power helps them continue day after day, year after year? This power is called motivation. In this passage, we will look deeply at how the incredible, true story of the Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville, teaches us powerful, lasting lessons about finding and maintaining motivation, especially when attempting to achieve something truly monumental that no one had ever done before, successfully flying a human-controlled, powered machine. The motivating journey of Wilbur and Orville Wright starts with a very simple and important idea: finding your spark. The deep interest, the question, or the problem that truly captures your attention. For the Wright brothers, this spark was lit early, when their father gave them a small, rubber band-powered toy helicopter. It flew briefly and then crashed, but that moment was enough. The difficult, seemingly impossible dream of human flight became their driving question, their obsession. This motivation was pure. It was not about getting rich or becoming famous. It was about satisfying a profound curiosity and solving one of the world's greatest puzzles. This deep internal desire is always the most reliable source of motivation. It is the reason they were willing to leave the comfort and security of their bicycle business to pursue an idea that many considered madness. Their motivation was rooted in intellectual passion. To follow this powerful spark, the brothers demonstrated the next critical key to sustained motivation: learning and observation. They didn't just sit and wish to fly. They became serious, dedicated students of the problem. They started by reading every book and paper they could find about flight, studying the work of other inventors who had come before them, inventors like Otto Lilienthal, whose tragic death in a gliding accident underscored the danger and difficulty of their goal. The Wrights realized that they needed to understand their challenge fully. This meant gathering scientific knowledge and understanding the fundamental forces involved in flying: lift, drag, thrust, and control. They were driven by the need to understand how things worked, not just that they worked. Their approach was methodical, like scientists, even though their workshop was just a simple shed behind their bicycle shop. Their study was not only theoretical from books. They understood that the best teacher was nature itself. They spent countless hours patiently observing birds in flight. How did they move their wings? How did they keep their balance in the strong, unpredictable winds? How did they manage to land softly without crashing? This detailed observation was crucial. Most inventors at the time were focused only on raw power, building a big engine to force the machine into the air. The Wrights noticed something much more subtle and important. Birds constantly twisted and bent their wingtips to control their direction and stability. This concept, which they called wing warping, became the basis for their first glider designs. By looking closely and truly understanding the mechanics of control, they gained the essential knowledge that would feed their motivation and set them far apart from other engineers who were failing. They learned that knowledge is fuel for motivation, because the more you understand the details of the problem, the better equipped you are to solve it, and the more likely you are to keep trying when difficulty arrives. This period of deep study, lasting several years, shows that true motivation often requires a long period of quiet, dedicated learning before visible action can begin. The Wright brothers understood a core truth about motivation. A big general dream is often not enough. You must set clear goals and break the impossible task into achievable steps to make it real. If you only look at the final goal, a human flying, it can feel too big and overwhelming, which easily destroys motivation. They created a simple three-part plan that guided their work. First, they focused entirely on control. They knew that even with the best engine, a machine that couldn't be steered would be useless and dangerous. Second, after mastering control, they would build a machine that could lift a man off the ground. Third, they would achieve sustained powered flight. To tackle the first step, control, they began building large, complex kites and then gliders. These early machines had no engines, but they allowed the brothers to test their wing warping concept with their feet and bodies. A key challenge arose during this period. The scientific data they were using, collected by other respected researchers, proved to be incorrect. Their first calculations using these tables resulted in gliders that flew poorly, much worse than expected. This moment could have been a reason to quit, saying the science proves it's impossible. But instead, their motivation led them to challenge the data itself. They built their own small wind tunnel inside their bicycle shop, a brilliant move of self-reliance. Using this homemade device, they began conducting their own tests on hundreds of different wing shapes. This work was tedious and long, but it showed their immense dedication. By correcting the old faulty tables and creating their own accurate data, they demonstrated a powerful motivational lesson. Trust your own process and results. They didn't let external information stop them. They created their own better knowledge. Each time they successfully adjusted a glider's balance or steered it even slightly in the wind, it was a small success. These small victories were incredibly important because they provided a constant boost of positive reinforcement. They felt successful, which energized them to move on to the next harder step. This technique of breaking the journey into smaller, manageable steps ensures that you are constantly receiving motivational feedback and never feel paralyzed by the size of the final objective. The history of flight attempts before the Wright brothers was a history of almost total failure, often ending in disaster. The Wrights' path was full of failure too. Their early gliders didn't fly well. Their initial calculations about lift were wrong. They crashed often, sometimes violently. Imagine putting all your time, your money, and your creative energy into building a machine only to watch it shatter into pieces against the dunes of Kitty Hawk. This level of disappointment could instantly kill the motivation of most people.
But the Wright brothers showed us how to manage inevitable failure. They mastered the great lesson of embracing failure as a teacher. When a glider broke apart or an experiment failed, they did not waste time in self-pity or anger. Instead, they immediately treated the crash as a necessary part of the experiment and asked a simple, powerful question. Why did it fail? What did the machine teach us this time? They meticulously wrote down everything: wind speed, control movements, angle of the wings, and how the machine responded. They analyzed the problem scientifically, almost celebrating the failure because it eliminated a wrong path. They did not see the crash as an ending, but as essential feedback and new information that helped them improve the next design. They were driven by the belief that every single failure, if understood correctly, brought them one crucial step closer to success rather than pushing them further away. This mindset, that failure is not a stopping point but a data point, is perhaps the most important secret to long-term motivation. It gives you the necessary resilience to get up and try again immediately, knowing that you are more informed than you were the day before. The world outside the Wrights' bicycle shop was full of people who doubted them. The public ignored them, and important scientists and wealthy government sponsors refused to give them money, stating that human flight was simply impossible. They faced ridicule and skepticism, but the brothers possessed the vital motivational trait of strong self-belief. They had faith in their own careful observations and the data from their homemade wind tunnel, even when these went against the opinions of the powerful people around them. They trusted their methods, their engineering instincts, and their own ability to solve the complex problem they faced. This deep inner fire helped them ignore the jokes and the public pressure. They did not require external validation or praise to keep moving forward. They trusted their own process more than the world's opinion. Their motivation was internal, robust, and reliable. This trust was supported by their incredible daily effort, which demonstrates the critical motivational lesson of persistence. Success for the Wright brothers was not achieved quickly. It was the slow, steady result of sustained, difficult effort. They worked long hours, often 6 days a week, spending years on the project with very little money, funding the whole experiment from their humble bicycle business. There were no shortcuts, no sudden moments of luck. Just day after day, year after year of designing, building, testing, failing, learning, and trying again. This persistence was not merely about working hard for a few weeks. It was about maintaining that intense focus and hard work over a very long duration, overcoming tedium, frustration, and discouragement every day. This consistency, this sheer refusal to be stopped by time or setbacks, is the true engine of motivation. It shows that the length of the journey is not as important as the willingness to continue traveling. Another key factor that prevented their motivation from dying was their shared journey, finding a partner who shares your dream. Wilbur and Orville were more than just brothers. They were an inseparable team who rarely worked apart. They shared the same dream, the same goals, and the same rigorous work ethic. When one brother felt tired, discouraged, or stuck on a technical problem, the other was immediately there to offer support, a new idea, or simply a word of encouragement. They talked about everything, argued productively over the right direction to take, and always listened carefully to each other's reasoning. Their shared effort made the difficulties seem less heavy and the eventual successes more joyful because they were shared immediately. This partnership created a stronger, more resilient, and more continuously motivated force than either brother could have been alone. It teaches us that shared enthusiasm and responsibility can keep a dream alive when individual motivation might start to fade, and that finding the right partner can double your capacity to endure and succeed. After years of relentless persistence, the brothers brought their final flyer machine, complete with their own lightweight engine and propellers, to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The windy, open conditions there were perfect for their final tests. In December 1903, the moment of truth arrived. The morning of the 17th was freezing cold, with a strong, chilling wind blowing from the north. After one failed attempt a few days earlier, they were ready for the second try. Orville lay down on the lower wing, taking his position as pilot. Wilbur stood nearby, ready to steady the machine. The small, specially made engine roared to life. Slowly, with Wilbur running alongside to steady the machine until the last possible moment, the flyer moved down the wooden track. Then, it happened. It lifted. It was real. It flew for only 12 seconds, traveling just 120 feet, a distance shorter than the wingspan of a modern airliner. But it flew. It was the first time in history that a human-controlled, powered machine had flown and landed safely. For those 12 seconds, the impossible became possible. This brief, magnificent moment of triumph was the ultimate reward for their long journey of motivation. It proved that their careful preparation, their persistence, their learning from failures, their self-belief, and their clear goals had been correct. That incredible feeling of achieving the impossible, of seeing a long-held dream become a reality, is the final and greatest lesson in motivation. Imagine the end goal. This vision of success will pull you forward and justify every single moment of struggle and failure you faced along the way. The successful flight was not just a historical event, it was the physical result of years of unwavering motivation. The Wright brothers' journey from a simple bicycle shop in Ohio to the first successful flight over Kitty Hawk is much more than a story about mechanics and wood. It is a profound guide to personal achievement. It is a powerful reminder that motivation is not just a passing feeling, it's a persistent, practiced skill. It is built on the foundations of deep curiosity, setting clear goals and correcting mistakes, believing in yourself against all odds, and never giving up. Their story shows us that with enough internal fire, detailed learning, and persistent action, even the biggest, most impossible dreams can rise up and truly take flight.